Welcome back. If you're just joining us here on The Press, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja, and I am Mefor Babajide. With us in the studio to analyze most of the national dailies this morning is none other than Dr. Law Mefor, of course, a media consultant. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me once more.
Thanks for joining us. How has your week been? We need to ask with the economy.
Well, my week, how do I describe it? Comme ça.
Okay.
The French would put it that way. Not too good, not too bad.
Not too bad. Okay.
We are adjusting and hoping it doesn't get worse. Because if it does, I really don't know. Sometimes I sit back, I wonder what those who are truly and genuinely poor are going through. Because I believe that by my going by the level of my attainment in life and all that, I should belong naturally to the middle class.
Okay.
So if I find it this hard, you know, those who are further down there on the lower rungs of the ladder, how are they really going about their everyday life? Because we go to the same market, it's the same bread, it's the same gari, the same rice. You know, there is no market for the poor and market for the rich and all that. So if we have all become poor, you know, those who are poorer, those who we say even before now living under what you call multi-dimensional poverty, you know, should be going through much more excruciating pains. And I just mentioned a few staple goods that have gone up by more than 300% in terms of cost. The bread that, you know, January this year was going for, you know, perhaps 500 naira. The bread has cost 1,000, you know, 1,000 to 1,005, depending on the brand. As I was coming, I saw Daily Trust, a newspaper, saying that the naira to dollar has made history. It has hit 1,000 naira at last. You know, so that's where we are. It means that things are not looking good at all. They are not looking good. But I'm an incurable optimist. I remain optimistic.
Okay, we're still going to get into the naira dollar issue proper, because that's going to be the highlight of today for the press. But then we can't talk about the press without talking about a story that has been on everybody's lips since last week. That's the death of one of our artists in Nigeria, Mohbad, and of course it's gotten to the point where his body was exhumed yesterday, and they've conducted autopsy. But that's not the catch. The catch is few persons have come out to say they saw blood in the coffin yesterday after the body was exhumed, and then there was this tweet, of course, people asking questions, and nobody's a doctor, but then a doctor analyzed it here, so I'd like us to take it, and I'm going to read it for us, and then would analyze what it's supposed to be and what I mean. Okay, so this coming from Dr. Chinonso Egemba. Someone asked a question on Twitter and said, doctors, is it possible for blood to appear between 8 to 10 days after death, because it's past 8 days since Mohbad was buried? And a doctor replied with, your blood has a red color because of a compound called hemoglobin, and that's what carries oxygen through your body. When blood is exposed to air, the cells that carry this hemoglobin, they die, and the hemoglobin becomes exposed to air and starts to change color to a darker one. Now, this dark color is because the hemoglobin is being changed to another compound called methemoglobin. Normally, when people die, they die with all the blood in their system, but it doesn't move because circulation has stopped, but it's still there. Let's not forget. He went further and said, now, during embalming, this blood is usually replaced with another fluid. The question is, was he embalmed? Of course, we all know that the answer to that. Even at that, you can't get all the blood out. Some will still be left. He said, we all want to know why it's still red, right? There is one possible reason. In a closed compartment, there is very little air on the ground. So it's possible that the hemoglobin is not exposed enough to change color to the darker one. As to why it's that much, we don't have access to the body. So we don't know what other injuries were inflicted on his body. We remember his neck was in an unnatural position to fit in the coffin. It is possible that the neck must have been broken in its vessels, caused some blood still in the system to leak out. All we can do is speculate. He said, we will not be more knowledgeable than people with the body physically and examining it. Dr. Law, I'd like you to, in one breath, before we get into today proper, what do you think about this guy's death? I mean, there's been candle night all over, not just Nigeria, the world.
Is a very unfortunate one. I have tried to research around the young man, his life, his death. I didn't know much about him when he was around. Yes, I listened to a bit of Nigeria's Afrobeats, hip-hops and all that. A number of Nigerian artists are doing fantastically well. The likes of Wizkid, Davido, P-Square, Patoran Kane, and Flavor. I listened to them and all that. And of course, these are the ones that you may consider to be ahead. But Mohbad and others are certainly close seconds. And a lot of his music, I never really knew he was the artist until he passed on. And the lyrics, the poetic meanings it tries to bring to life and all that, to convey the message that was his music, is something that is worth celebrating. So I am not surprised that he became more popular even in death. And that said, I want to pay tribute to him. He did his best. It's not how long you really lived, it's how well. However, it's important that we get the truth surrounding his death, because some of the things I read, were not quite palatable. The kind of beef you find within the musical circle, the artists themselves, particularly of importance and interest to me was the beef between him and Naira Marley. I think that is the name of that one. I believe I saw things like threats, and stuff. And Mohbad himself also appears to have been, even alerted that if anything happen to him, so it's important to really get to know what happened. And that is why I am happy that the Nigeria Police Lagos State Command has actually taken up this matter. And by setting up a 13-man special investigative panel, the governor, Sanwo-Olu, commendably also inviting the DSS. He wants to be certain that nobody covers up the truth.
Yes.
They understand that. It's not to say that anybody is guilty, but we want to be sure that nobody is. Do you understand that? So we have to wait for the autopsy report, which I understand is ready.
It's ready, yes.
But yet to be officially delivered to the police. The coroner's report, usually would base its conclusions and recommendations on the autopsy report, because it's scientific and all that. You want to know whether poisoning was involved and all that, and then if it was, who did it and all that. The one thing we know, the young man went to hospital and a nurse injected him with what? Could he be an expired drug? Could he be a proper drug? And maybe the young man didn't even eat before going to the hospital and all. We've seen people collapse under such circumstances, depending on the kind of drug that you are injected with. So these are some of the issues that must be interrogated and fair conclusions reached. That said, you also have the problem of drug interaction. A lot of artists are on drugs. You don't know what he took, before he went there. He could interact with the injection that he took, and they could result in anything. These are some of the things we expect that the autopsy report would be able to reveal. Even drug and food interaction can also be fatal. It depends on the kind of food. You'll be surprised when they tell you, if you're on this drug, don't ever take this. most people don't know, and you can run into crisis that could be fatal. People have died because of a drug-drug interaction, food-drug interaction, and so on and so forth. His death wasn't a good one, you know, and again, the way he was hurriedly buried, hurriedly even removed from the hospital. Because I understand he was almost instantly removed by the friend that brought him. You can't do that. You should wait for even a doctor to certify him dead, because from all indications there was no doctor on ground. You know, the nurses took care of him. So is a nurse supposed to authorize that the dead body be removed from the hospital? I doubt it, and I don't think it is proper. Why the rush? You know, the young man, was he afraid of not being called into question and the other? You know, one can get scared over such things, and so on and so forth. And look at the rule of the father. Buried the young man the same night, and you couldn't even have time to make a proper coffin. To the point that you had to break his neck. You don't do that. A father, you know, I don't get some of these things. A father, you broke your son's neck to fit into a coffin. What would it take you to get another carpenter? And
the funny part is the father is a carpenter.
And also you don't know the measurement of your son and all that. So all these things don't quite add up for me. So I believe that something needs to be straightened out, so that the general public will be able to consume the information better. And of course be able to learn from it. You won't learn anything from Mohbad's death unless you know the whole truth. And like I said, here and there, artists in Nigeria, they are the ones that have put us on the global stage. That's all we have got left. As a matter of fact, Nollywood and the musical industry of Nigeria. Nothing else is left. It used to be football before, but our football is gone. You know, I don't know when we can recover that. So I think that whatever will injure that soul pride we have at the moment needs to be ratified. So I thank the Nigeria Police Force, Lagos State Command. I thank Sanwo-Olu. Please, they shouldn't relent. We need the truth.
I like that. It's the story is quite a sad one, because right now in the studio I don't like the energy I'm getting. It's a sad one, and we pray that his soul would rest in perfect peace. Amen. Okay, let's quickly move away from that. But before we move, let's take our first caller of the day, which is Elder Zion. Good morning, Elder Zion. Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
good morning, Elder Zion. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, everyone in the studio.
Yeah, good morning, Elder Zion.
Please join in on the conversation.
My brother, Mefor, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Well, I will start by condoning those that lost somebody. People in Imo State.
Okay, the killing in Imo State.
You see, our people will say, if you see a woman grieving, shedding tears, there must be something that happened to her that is serious. They say, okay, a drum cannot make noise without being beaten. All these things happening in the southeast is uncalled for. They are unnecessary. If the federal government will play their role very well, the reason and all these things will come to end. They refused. They did not want to obey the law of the land, of the constitution, and the court judgments. That's the reason. I'm only pleading with the soldiers. The dignity they used, the professionalism they used in dealing with the same case in Niger State should apply in Imo. They should not continue as they did yesterday to kill innocent people, destroy houses and buildings. They should stop it.
Okay.
And they should interrogate properly and find out the culprits
All right.
And they now deal with them according to the law of the land.
All right.
Having said so, as you can remember, 2 weeks ago, I asked questions to our distinguished analyst that day. If we knew whether we have gone back to subsidy regime. Today, what are we to say? Buhari have drawn us back to subsidy regime without telling Nigerians. I think that is a very serious case. It's an impeachable case. Like the National Assembly should say it that way. We should not hide sensitive issues concerning the life of more than 200 million Nigerians. You use it in secrecy. You removed it. Now, you are applying it back, and Nigerians know. Please, all those that are needed for them the new truth should stand up and tell you, so that Nigeria will not become a useless country.
All right, thank you, Elder Zion.
In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Elder Zion. All right, it brings me to my next question, and Dr. Law, please, I would like you to take it in one breath, because during the week we saw where there was a murder happened in Imo State, and one of the papers this morning I said gunman murder ASP inspector in Enugu police ambush. That's one. And of course he mentioned about the subsidy removal. But before we get into subsidy removal, Shaibu apologizes to Obaseki over feud, seeks forgiveness. It looks like there's a lot going on in Nigeria, in Nigerian states, because we have deputy governors and governors always having issues and back and forth. I'd like to make mention of Ondo State, where a move has been, they've written a move, of course, to impeach the deputy governor of Ondo State because they bought 300 million naira worth SUVs. And now Shaibu has issues with Obaseki. Now is coming to apologize. Should we scrap having a deputy governor in Nigeria totally, or should there be a reform of our constitution or something?
Yeah, well, I think my big brother, former governor of Anambra State,
okay,
Dr. Okwadike Chukwuemeka, captured it aptly. He said that deputy governors are spare tires. You know, you never really look for a spare tire unless the main tire has an issue.
Tire has an issue.
That's it. Well, you don't scrap it because you need the spare tire, even if it has to be left as such.
Okay.
I think what has to be creatively done in the system is to assign some responsibilities to that office. For example, if you come to the federal level, the vice president has some responsibilities. For example, he's the chairman of the National Economic Council.
That's correct.
In the state, you don't have such arrangement. And then you can see that what you really need to do is to tweak the constitution to assign some responsibilities to these men and women who are active and ought to be engaged. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
I wouldn't see what will be out of place if the constitution allows the deputy governor to be a coordinating commissioner.
Okay.
Yes. You know, he can be a coordinating commissioner. The way you have coordinating minister of the economy and assign some responsibilities to these people. They don't have no job. They are like traditional rulers in Nigeria. They have no job. They are just there in name, window dressing, you know, just like upholstery in the house.
Just a figurehead.
You know, that is one level. Then, the real question should be, how come deputy governors don't succeed the governors in Nigeria? There are two reasons for it. One is the deputy governors are often taken by the governors when they are in the race campaigning, and of course as required by the constitution that you have to go with a partner. who will be your deputy. You swim and sink together and all that. Even though you can part ways after being sworn in as governor and vice. Now, usually the deputy governors are very strong because they represent a group, an interest, a power block that the governor needs to be able to combine to win. That is one level of the problem. In other words, the governors are even afraid of their deputies, as you know, they are equals in some sense, and they would prefer people who are more pliable, who are more, you know, yes, pliable. I think that is the word. People they can control and manage. In other words, the governors, by imposing the kind of successors they have, or they would prefer, are going for a third term by proxy. They want to remain in power, and they can't see themselves actualizing same if they hand over to their deputies. Since 1999, when Nigeria has produced well over 100 governors, do you understand that? Because if you check the number of election cycles, you know, and you have 36 states of the federation, election cycles have come to about 5 or so, and they have 2 terms. That means, you know, you are closing into about 100 governors who have produced. Only 2 of them have handed over to their deputies, and that is Kwankwaso with Abdullah Danguje, and I think Lekki Amadi of Imo State that handed over to Dave Umahi. Dave was the deputy governor. But again, if you look at the experience of Dave actually fought for it. The governor, Lekki, didn't want to hand over to Dave. So Dave Umahi fought his way through and took it. You know, he took the office. You know, so it wasn't with the cooperation of the governor. He wasn't nominated as such. This said, the 2 issues at hand that you mentioned, that of Obaseki and the deputy Philip Shaibu. Do you understand that? And of course, if you look at their own case, it's a bit unfortunate. I say so because they have been they've been really together. Yeah. You know, remember that Philip Shaibu was I think is it deputy speaker or something like that in the House of Assembly. You know, it was from there under Dams or Shomole, right? It was from there he became a deputy. Yeah. But even at that, when Obaseki was facing major crisis, remember he was in APC, the party dumped him and all that. Shaibu stuck with him. Shaibu had the opportunity of jumping ship then. He didn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they stayed together, and of course to reciprocate all that, Obaseki still reappointed him as his deputy for the 2nd term. Now Shaibu wants to be governor. That is where the problem is lying. Nothing else. Shaibu now wants to be governor. Obaseki doesn't want to hand over to Shaibu. That's what this whole thing is all about. Any other thing you're seeing is just for the optics and for a kind of analysis to give it some meaning. But this is the summary of what is going on. Shaibu wants to be governor. Obaseki doesn't want to hand over to Shaibu. And Shaibu is trying to become a governor through other means. So he is building alternative power structure. Do you understand that? And that is what is aching the governor. Because it means that if he allowed Shaibu to run his full course, Shaibu will be in a position to upstage him. I gave an example with that of Dave Umahi. And it has happened where the will or the wish of the incumbent governor really didn't quite turn out the way, because they didn't checkmate the alternative power blocks that tried to upstage them. That is what Obaseki is trying to do. Now, but I think he is taking it a bit too far. You know, I think this is a bit too far. And I also think that Shaibu is not a man enough, if I must use that expression. You know, why do I say so? See, being a deputy governor of of Edo State. It's not your father's job or birthright. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you are in that position based on the magnanimity of the Governor Baseki, and you understand it and accept it as such, resign. If you're there in your own right, do you understand what I'm saying? And you believe you have the capacity to stand up to the governor, stand up to him. Why apologize? You are apologizing, meaning that you believe that what you did was wrong. Do you get my point? If you know you were in your right, I will never apologize. If I know that I am doing the right thing. He is a political entity, for God's sake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. And if just one step away from being the governor himself. Because anything could happen, and the next by constitution is the deputy governor. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's a fact. Let him stay in the office. You know, he went to court trying to stop his impeachment. If you are really a gladiator, you should be able to find your way around some of these things. Okay. But for me, I believe that the most honorable thing to do is to go into Obaseki's office, shut the door, and ask him what the hell is going on. If you no longer want me, here's my resignation letter. And you walk away. You walk away like a man. And you come out, address the world press conference that you are running for governor. Win or lose. How did some people even get this? Even Obaseki himself, when APC shoved him aside, the people rallied around him and made him the governor in another party platform, the PDP. Do you get the point? Despite the fact that APC was controlling Edo State then. So if Shaibu is in his right and he is popular, needed by his people, Obaseki cannot stop him from being the governor. Dave Uman is a clear example. Do you get the point?
That's correct.
It's a very clear example. You can, because Dave was a deputy governor. He is a principal. Elechi didn't want him. Martin Elechi, not Elechi Amadi. You know, Martin Elechi did not want him, and he stood up to Martin Elechi and contested and won to become the governor of Ebonyi State.
Okay. And
I advise Philip Shaibu to learn from such history and not take this cowardly pathway that will even anger his own core supporters. He should stand up. This is politics. This is politics. He should stand up to his right. If the man says he doesn't want you anymore, take the bull by the horn and live with your honor. Okay. Don't mess your political future up because you have age on your side.
Okay, let's quickly take this call. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Good morning.
Yes, please, your name and where you're calling from.
Collins.
All right, Collins, please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
Okay, please, I want to thank all of you in the studio.
All right, thank you.
I want to analyze on the issue of somebody like, is it the last caller, not the last caller or something of that? Is it the issue going on in the north? I'm not from Northeast.
Thank you.
I'm from Benue State anyway. The issue that is going on in the Northeast, let's take for example now, over a decade now, the issue of terrorists in Northeast, the issue of the Southeast, there is an issue going on, that is the terrorists in the Northeast, over a decade now.
All right.
So many militaries, both the police, paramilitary and military are being killed. How far have the federal government gone about it? Why is it that each time any little thing that will invade the Southeast, killing both the innocent and people involved, we have to look to it. You say we are one Nigeria.
Okay.
All these things have been happening over a decade in the Northeast now. You have never heard, is it because that Nigeria entirely doesn't have the manpower to take over everything? I can believe there was a time I used to be a conductor. There is a place we used to load tomato for Tamasara. As I'm talking to you now, there is nobody in that place now. The Boko Haram are over everywhere. There is no single person even in that place now. That's why they say that the Northeast is and nobody is there. put soldiers, put military, and other forces to the north forces to go and destroy and kill people. It's not fair. Then in terms of this governorship of 2018, look, there is a force, like in my biggest state now, we have the governor from Zone A. The deputy is from Zone C.
Okay.
Are you getting me? It is the influence of that deputy that the governor have an age in that Zone C. And at the same time, the governor being in Zone A as a team person, the coverage of him from that Zone A and Zone B giving that good to sit in that post. Why is it that all these are politicians that are too greedy that they don't want to take things? Look at the things we are going through now. The governor will finish after 8 years of looting and everything is under a pension, collecting pension. After coming out to be a senator, he's collecting money at the same time collecting pension. And somebody in the police force are required to become a teacher and still collecting the pension and collecting salary of the teacher again. Is it done like that? These are political office holder are different people. We are suffering, no? We are suffering. The liter of gas is 1,100 naira in my place. As I'm talking to now, the people of sand that we used to buy 8,500 is 50,000 naira presently now as I'm talking to you. So what do they want us to do?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Collins.
Please.
Yeah, I get his position.
Okay.
You know, what has happened to the Southeast is rather unfortunate. Until a couple of months ago, Southeast was the safest zone in Nigeria. Sure. And following the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to continue his trial in Nigeria, the whole security situation in the Southeast turned there upside down. And the place became a hotbed for all manner of insecurity. Unknown gunmen emerged, you know, and people say they know them. People say they don't know them. Then you have the reckless security. How do I really describe this? You know, to capture both the situation and without offending sensibilities. You know, the recklessness you find in the way and manner policing and the security operations take place, go on in the Southeast. It's a contributory factor. You know, it's there. Then you have there's this new wave, this new fad. You call Yahoo boys. They are killing people. They are killing people for rituals, for money. You find a concentration of them in the Southeast. You find all manner of things going on there now. The place suddenly became, you know,
my question, you know? Dr. Law, do you think releasing Nnamdi Kanu would be able to actually curb the level of insecurity a bit?
You know, you see, it's my prayer that it does so, but I have my doubts. Because you have some criminal elements that have permeated the Biafra struggle, who, whether or not you bring out Nnamdi Kanu, are not likely to, obey the laws and let go, so that there will be full restoration of security in the Southeast. And you also have a pocket of the agitators who now believe in things like taking security of the Southeast into their hands. You have a group you call Eastern Security Network and all that. Will they be disbanded? Will their operations cease? These are all elements you find in the mix called insecurity in the Southeast. So these are problems. And you see their video clips and kids everywhere showing that they are active. And of course, they are also being mimicked by some criminal elements. So you don't even know who is who anymore. However, it's still important that we release Nnamdi Kanu, because if you release Nnamdi Kanu and such insecurity continues, we now want to see their new reason. You understand what I'm saying? And I understand that the hearing of his appeal by the Supreme Court is coming up perhaps next week. So let's see what will happen in the Supreme Court. Some people keep saying that the court had ordered the release of Nnamdi Kanu, and the federal government is not obeying. I don't think that information is correct. Yes, the Court of Appeal ordered his release, but the federal government filed a state of execution and went on appeal. That is still a legal process. Yeah. So if this was what happened, that indeed federal government got a state of execution and they also appealed his release, the order for his release by the Court of Appeal at the Supreme Court, it means that they're actually following a legal process. So if you want federal government to abandon that legal process it is following, then you have to apply political pressure. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. You have to, because they have every right to enter no prosecute. There is this legal process. By the Attorney General of the Federation. He can ask the court to discontinue an ongoing trial. He has the right to do so because he's the one that initiated it anyway. So that is one other way, but it's an alternative way. Getting federal government to do that will not happen by saying that federal government refused to obey an order, because they got a legal order to stay the execution of the order. I'm not speaking for them, but I'm just trying to put the record straight. So I am for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, and of course I do pray that that should be enough for restoration of security to the south. Political leadership of the zone is not looking right. This whole thing didn't start today, because I recall that the then Southeast Governors of Forum, led again by Dave Umahi, reached an agreement to start up, start up what they called a Babago as a regional, Southeast regional security intervention force to back up the Nigeria police force. That would have been beautiful, but it was not implemented. Rather, the governors, when they're separate ways, running their own private armies and using it to chase around the perceived and real political enemies. That is partly what has brought us to where we are. We need to have a rejigging, the reorganization of the Southeast political process, because everything is driven by politics. If the political leadership is right, if the political leadership is right, we won't be facing this kind of problem we are facing at the moment.
Okay, all right, Dr. Low. Let's quickly take this last question, and I'd like you to answer in 2 minutes. We have limited time. Questions persists over petrol subsidy. And then we have the Punch say federal government may pay 1.6 trillion naira as they're expecting that fuel might eat 900 naira per litre. That's a lot, if you ask me.
Well, you see, last week when I was there, I told you people that the fuel subsidy as implemented by the federal government is not clear, that is opaque, is not transparent. Because when fuel moved from 540 to 617, the federal government assured the Nigerians that there will be no further increase. But before then, you told us that fuel price was determined by market forces. If you are in a position to say it cannot move further, what that means is that it's either you fixed that one arbitrarily, or you are paying something to make sure that there is no further increase. What does that tell you? There has been a secret return of subsidy. It's tragic. A secret return of a subsidy, and that secret return of subsidy, did not translate to return of fuel price to 197 where they met it. It's staying at that 617, which has already dealt a mortal blow on the nation's economy. And of course, the president has even when he was in New York, ringing the bell and everything, telling people to come and invest in Nigeria, they have nothing to fear, that Nigeria is the largest economy, they can bring in their money and take out their money. Well, it's good to say such things on the international stage. But my dear president, you and I know it's not true now, because the airlines, for example, their $800 million is still trapped in the Central Bank of Nigeria. You ought to have released that one first before you can tell people who are coming now that
you told them to come back. He said the investors should come back.
What is good, the president has started out well. on the international stage.
Yeah.
But the national economy is suffering seriously. Naira floating is a major problem. I recommended, and I still recommend, that we don't have to float the Naira. There must be some cushioning for the Naira because we don't export much. Up to 70%, 75% of Nigeria export is still crude. If it's crude oil, and it means you are not exporting much, you need to do something about, pegging the Naira somewhere. Even if it's going to be 1,000 Naira, that you want to peg the Naira to the dollar, let us know it is there and guaranteed that for the next 1 year it's going to be here before we review it. Then you can plan with it. Then federal government needs to suspend subsidy and return to the drawing board with labor and other critical stakeholders to agree on what should be done before subsidy will be removed. This has always been my recommendation, and I repeat it here again.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Dr. Law. It's been an insightful one with you on the program today. Let's quickly go for our social media trends. There's a video, of course, of people praying and raising up their phones, shining lights, and although I'm a Christian, but religion and spirituality, do they actually tally? Let's take a look at that video.
You are the giver of all things. You told me that the words of my mouth will not fall to the ground. You told me that whoever I bless shall be blessed. I stand in my office as God's servant. Lift up those phones. I command money to enter your account. If you have faith here, that amen will be better. I don't need to shout for you to get wealth. It is spiritual. Stretch that in all. I speak to Zenith bank account. Receive miracle money. I speak to Diamond Access account. Receive miracle money. I speak to UBA. Receive money. I speak to Access Bank. Receive miracle money. I speak to Guarantee to.
Welcome back. Well, I wanted to hear Dr. Law's part about this because there's something of it. The federal government is watching this. Because now the person has mentioned Zenith Bank and Access Diamond. What happens to other people? I mean, Stanbic Bank,
I have an account in Diamond.
Dr. Law, Citibank was not mentioned. Thank you. But I mean, the question is, there's a particular part of the book that actually states that you must work before you get money. Yeah. But in this case, I mean, miracles happen, but
there, he who does not work should not eat.
Exactly.
That is the part of the Bible I understand. Right? God says that I shall bless the work of your hands. That means you're already doing something. Right? Before God can, you understand that you want miracle money. This is exactly what has produced Yahoo ritual killing in Nigeria. And federal government needs to do more. Nigeria police, they need to rise to these things. There are shrines in the southeast where ritual killings are going on. What happens to what you call string operation? Do you understand that? I saw a video where young men gathered around the river, they are sacrificing their life and all this. Where is the Nigeria police? We need to wake up and compel Nigerian youth to regain perspective. He who does not work should not eat. If you are not working, don't expect God's blessings.
Thank you very much, Dr. Law, for that insightful one. Well, this is where we wrap it up for the press this week. Thank you for staying tuned with us also from Monday to Friday. I'll wrap it up with make sure you stay safe and of course hold whatever you are holding. I remain Babajide. See you same time, same station next week. Bye.
Confidence, Ruben. Bye.
Bye.